Ladies and gentlemen, beloved sons and daughters of purpose, I want to begin this message by speaking directly to the tension that lives in the in-between, the place between promise and manifestation, between knowing what God has said and watching it unfold. If you are here today, there's a part of you that has dared to believe that marriage is not just a social construct or a cultural expectation, but something deeply sacred, something prophetic. And for that reason, we must approach this conversation not with casual interest, but with reverence. Because prophetic marriage is not about fairy tales or Instagram aesthetics. It is about destiny. It is about alignment. It is about two lives divinely orchestrated, coming together not just for companionship, but for kingdom purpose. This is not a marriage built solely on attraction or ambition, but on assignment. And if God has been stirring something in your spirit, nudging you in quiet moments, pulling you into deeper intimacy with Him, then perhaps He is preparing you. Perhaps what feels like delay is divine development. Perhaps what looks like loneliness is actually sacred preparation. So I invite you to listen, not just with your ears, but with your spirit. Because what you may hear today could be confirmation of what heaven has already whispered to you in secret. There are signs, subtle, sometimes even disruptive indicators that God is preparing you for a prophetic marriage. And these signs are not always wrapped in the language we expect. They don't always come as visions or dreams or divine downloads. Sometimes they look like breaking. Sometimes they look like silence. Sometimes they look like the undoing of everything familiar. The first sign is a deep, unmistakable pull toward wholeness, not perfection, not self-sufficiency, but wholeness. Before God brings you into a prophetic partnership, He will first call you into an intimate covenant with yourself, who He created you to be, apart from performance, apart from the masks you've worn to survive, apart from the pain you've normalized. You'll notice an increasing intolerance for the version of yourself that compromises, settles, or hides. You'll find that spaces, relationships, and patterns that once felt comfortable now feel like cages. This is not rejection. This is refinement, because God will not send someone to complete you. He will send someone to complement what He's already completed in you. Wholeness becomes the atmosphere in which prophetic love can breathe. Without it, we become dependent, fragmented, and vulnerable to confusion disguised as connection. God is making you whole so that when you meet your person, you recognize them not by how they fill your emptiness, but by how they affirm your identity. The second sign is an awakening of purpose that reorders your priorities. When God is preparing you for a prophetic marriage, you begin to see your life through a lens of divine intention. What once seemed random now feels orchestrated. You begin to discern a theme in your life, gifts, burdens, passions that all point to a calling larger than yourself. This awakening often comes with disruption. God will begin to strip away distractions, good things even, that no longer serve the trajectory He's setting you on. You'll feel a new urgency to steward your time, your relationships, your energy. And it's not always glamorous. Sometimes it looks like walking away from a relationship that feels good but lacks God. Sometimes it means choosing silence over visibility, preparation over platform. But here's the truth. Prophetic marriages are purpose partnerships. You are not being prepared for romance alone. You are being prepared for war, for legacy, for building altars, not just homes. So God will awaken your purpose so that when your partner shows up, they don't become your purpose. They become a divine reinforcement of what God has already established in you. Your alignment with them will not come from chemistry alone, but from a shared assignment that heaven has been preparing you both to carry. The third sign is the healing of generational wounds and cycles. This one is not often talked about because it's painful. But beloved, God loves you too much to allow unhealed trauma to contaminate what He calls sacred. If you are being prepared for a prophetic marriage, God will call you to confront the bloodline battles you've inherited. He will highlight the cycles of abandonment, control, abuse, manipulation, fear that have repeated themselves in your family story, not to shame you, but to free you. Because prophetic marriage is not just about what you build, it's about what you break. It's about being the one in your lineage that says, "This stops with me." You may find yourself going through seasons of inner work, therapy, fasting, deliverance, long nights of prayer, where God is excavating things you didn't even know were there. It may feel like unraveling, but it is actually the reconstruction of your foundation. God is setting you free so you don't carry brokenness into the next season and call it love. And here's what's profound in this process. God will often give you glimpses, not of your future spouse, but of the healed version of yourself. The version that can love without fear, that can trust without control, that can lead without ego. That version of you is not a fantasy. It is a future God is actively birthing through healing. Let him finish the work. The fourth sign is a divine shift in how you see love and relationships. This is not something you choose. It happens to you. Almost like scales falling from your eyes, you begin to see clearly what once looked like love, but was really validation. You recognize patterns, how you chose people based on wounds, not wisdom, how you confused intensity for intimacy, how your standards were shaped more by scarcity than by spirit. And suddenly, what once attracted you begins to repel you. You can't explain it. You just know that's the Holy Spirit renewing your mind. Because prophetic love requires prophetic vision. You cannot discern your person if your lens is still clouded by dysfunction. God will begin to train your eyes to see people not just for their potential, but for their fruit. Not just for their charisma, but for their character. And as he renews your vision, you'll stop idolizing marriage and start honoring it. You'll stop chasing chemistry and start cherishing compatibility, spiritually, emotionally, purposefully. You'll begin to crave conversations that stretch you, not just entertain you. You'll want depth over distraction, covenant over convenience. This shift is divine, and it will make you wait longer. It will make you walk away from options that others would choose, but it will also protect you. Because when you see love through God's eyes, you don't just look for someone who fits your preferences, you wait for someone who aligns with your promise. And the fifth sign, perhaps the most sacred of all, is divine interruption. God will interrupt your plans. He will interrupt your timelines, your expectations, even your desires. Not because he wants to punish you, but because he wants to prepare you for something greater than you imagined. You may have envisioned your life going a certain way, with certain milestones met by certain ages. But prophetic marriage often comes when we surrender our scripts, when we stop performing for God and start partnering with him. This interruption can be uncomfortable. You may feel like you've missed your moment, or like everyone else is getting blessed while you're getting broken. But trust me, interruption is evidence that heaven is involved. God interrupts what is good to make room for what is God. He will allow certain things to fall apart so that what is built next is unshakable. He will isolate you, not to punish you, but to consecrate you. In this divine pause, God is writing a better story. One where your marriage is not just a happy ending, but a holy beginning. One where your love story echoes heaven's priorities. One where your union becomes a sign and wonder to those watching, reminding them that God still writes beautiful stories for those who wait on him. So what do you do with all of this? How do you respond to the signs? You lean in. You don't strive, you don't hustle for it. You surrender to it. You embrace the preparation, even when it hurts. You say yes to the healing. You steward your purpose. You protect your peace. You allow God to prune your expectations until all that's left is a hunger for his will. And then you wait, not passively, not bitterly, but with a posture of expectancy that says, God, I believe you are good, and I trust you with the timing of my life. That kind of waiting is worship. It's prophetic in itself. Because every day you choose to trust God over timelines. Every day you choose to believe that preparation is not punishment. Every day you choose to become rather than just receive. You are prophesying with your life that heaven's timeline is worth it. My heart for you is this: may you be so deeply rooted in God's love that when your prophetic partner comes, they find you flourishing, not searching, not striving, but secure. May your life speak of His faithfulness even before your marriage testifies to it. And when the moment comes, when your eyes meet someone whose spirit speaks of home, whose purpose runs parallel to yours, whose presence calls forth your best self, may you recognize them not just by how they make you feel, but by how they echo what God already told you in the secret place. That is prophetic alignment. That is divine partnership. That is what you were made for. So don't fear the process. Don't rush the pruning. Don't resist the becoming, because what God is preparing you for is not ordinary. It is sacred. It is strategic, and it is worth every moment of the wait. God is not late. He's intentional. He's not just writing a love story. He's building a legacy. And you, beloved, are a vital part of it. Keep becoming. Keep believing. The promise is still on schedule. There's something sacred about trusting God in the silent seasons, the seasons where nothing seems to be moving, where the promises feel distant, and the only evidence of progress is the quiet transformation happening within. And it is in these hidden seasons that the deepest work of preparation takes place. If we are not careful, we may mislabel this season as abandonment, when in truth it is alignment. Because before God fulfills a prophetic promise, He always forms the vessel. He shapes the heart. He sharpens discernment. He strengthens character. You may not see it yet, but the conversations you're having with God in private are preparing you for the covenant conversations you will have with your future spouse. The boundaries you're learning to uphold now are the same ones that will safeguard your marriage. The healing you're experiencing, even when it feels raw and unresolved, is making space for a love that does not have to bleed to be deep. Every no that God has permitted, every door that has not opened, every relationship that didn't lead to the altar has been an act of mercy, not punishment. God is not keeping something from you. He is preserving something for you. You see, a prophetic marriage is not about just falling in love. It is about discerning who can walk with you through seasons of war and seasons of wonder. Who can hear God with you and for you? Who knows how to pray when words fail and how to war when the battle feels bigger than both of you? And if that is what you desire, then the preparation must be equally intentional. That's why your preparation is not just emotional, it is spiritual. God is refining your spirit to be sensitive to His voice, so that when your spouse speaks, it will be confirmation, not confusion. You are being trained to recognize peace, not just passion, because passion can be misleading. But peace, true, divine peace, will always testify to alignment. That's why, even now, God is teaching you how to sit with silence, how to lean into prayer, how to ask Him the hard questions. Because you're not just being prepared to be a wife or husband in title, you're being raised to be a prophetic partner in purpose, a safe place, a strong intercessor, a co-laborer in the field of destiny. And here's the truth. We don't often speak aloud. There is grief in the preparation. There is grief in letting go of timelines you clung to, dreams you shaped around people who were never meant to stay, and identities you built around past expectations. There's grief in saying goodbye to familiar patterns, even toxic ones, because they were comfortable. But the grief is part of the glory. It makes room for what is holy. And that kind of preparation isn't pretty. It doesn't always post well, but it is powerful. Because God is removing the things in you that would sabotage your future if left unchecked. He's purging insecurities that would distort your ability to receive love. He's closing the mouth of shame so you don't carry it into sacred spaces. He's teaching you how to believe Him again, not just for marriage, but for miracles, for a new story, for restoration that goes deeper than cosmetics and touches the very soul of your journey. And while all of this is happening,